Hello and welcome. I'm Lewis Nichols, and my videos have been getting longer lately. We're going to cut the fluff. We're going to get to our points. No rambling. It might work. It might not. You are a starting DM and feeling a little lost. You've run a session 0 and you feel like your players are ready for you. But are you ready for them? Let's get you there. This is the third video in the series. I suppose it ought to be its own playlist because we're planning at least 2 more. Is it absolutely necessary you watch World Building a Medium Island and getting ready for Session 1 in a 5th edition game of Dungeons & Dragons? Whew, that's a long name. Well, it's probably not necessary, but if you want to, I'll wait. Initiative. Oh, yeah, you're done. You're back. All right. Awesome. Let's see here. Let's start with some premises. That map you've been seeing, that's the player's known world. That's the campaign map. They know there's stuff beyond, but they don't know much, and you're going to give them lots of reasons to stick around. The other thing, the gnolls are just gnolls. They might know about a little bit of an undead problem here and there. Every D&D campaign have those. They don't know about the Lich. These higher powers, they don't know the details about. And they might be important to the campaign in the future. They might not. The party members, we've determined we wanted a Myogu. We got one. That's the Wyvern Rider guy, or the Wyvern-born guy. We have a human cleric, a Goliath barbarian, because why not? An elven sorcerer, and a Death's Head dwarf, because we also wanted one of those. We have a couple of unique species, ethnic groups. We want them included. That's one way to keep things tied in on the area, is strong, solid connections. Our players in Session 0, did you miss it? Not the episode. I'm making stuff up, sorry. Our imaginary players have decided that they want a monster-heavy, sea-going campaign with a good chunk of exploration involved. They're all from the same hometown on the little island that's going to pop up after I stop chattering and go back to just recording over pictures, because that's easier. It's probably more entertaining too. It's a small town. You are all at least vaguely familiar of each other, and you can decide yourselves if there are previous friendships. You have all come into your own recently, in your each individual unique ways. You've been summoned to speak to the town elders, now that you've been noticed as potential local heroes. It's a matter of the utmost importance. It's all about the town's future. These things are event-driven. I'm not setting them on a hard course, because that's not how I roll. But we all know that it's easier if the players do basically the things that you've prepared for them. And we'll talk more about how to get around that. But very few players are just going to go the opposite direction. Last premise. We have very little time left. 2 weeks and your campaign is starting. You got about 10 hours of time devoted to development. What are you going to do with it? First order of business. What's the mission? That's pretty easy, really. There are a million things that might be threatening the town, and there's always the possibility that it's not threatening. It's just something the elders want you to go do. I'm going to make it a real crisis. I would suspect that you all know there is an illness going around. It's worse than you think. 5 townsfolk have died in the last week, and it's spreading. Now you can set this up once you've decided it. Backbuild a little bit. You're going to start the session with a little family backbuilding. You start with the Goliath. Hey Goliath, as you leave home, your family is gushing over how proud they are of you, but Dad warns you not to get pushed into something that you don't want to do. The Sorcerer player. Hey Sorcerer, your family is still a little weirded out over those powers that you've manifested, but they wish you well, hopeful that you'll bring home a few coins for your trouble. The Dwarf. Hey Dwarf, as you leave the house, Mom reminds you, be sure to ask that cleric if there's anything he can do to help your father. It's okay to bring him over if he thinks he can help. The sounds of coughing come from the back room. You want your party to feel attached to their hometown so they don't feel tempted to run away forever. Remember, the more they move around, the more work you will have to do. So what exactly is the mission? It's a simple fetch quest. Sail to here and bring back medicine. Next, I would spend a little time working on their hometown. You gotta name it. Let's say Darset. We know it's on the island of East Cameo. We'll decide some more stuff too. It's led by a council of 5 somewhat elderly individuals. These are all foreign-born from the early days of settlement. That means no Miyogu and no local dwarves on the council. It's tentatively under the dominion of this city over here, but that doesn't really come up much. Fishing feeds the island, mostly from coast-hugging dugouts imported from the mainland. There isn't much wood here. There is some surface iron that's prospected and smelted down near the town, then exported. The settlement also exports pottery made from local clay. There's no pottery shop. Instead, it's made at home in the backroom shops of local hovels. There is an open-air market that's virtually dead except when ships come into port. This happens often in the summer, but only once or twice a month in the winter. Task number 3, and you're going to want to do this before each session. Go over each party member and make sure that you're not ignoring them, that they're included, that you've thought about the role that they play in the game. I've mentioned a few already, so I'll be prepared to give that Miyogu something tangible on this mission. Say, another of his species to interact with. We'll make him from another economic level, just to establish there's an extremely varied social scale here. For the cleric, I've already set up some role-playing with him with the dwarf's family, so that's probably enough. Your attention is never going to be completely even. Just make sure that it's something that you keep in your head and compensate where you can. I'm not handing out solo missions. These are just tidbits to keep everybody involved. Task number 4. Let's go back to the mission. It's going to be a day's journey, so let's set up a single encounter for the trip. I'm not going to be rolling anything random. I want to run an early combat, and I'm picking the monster. So let's say the ship is transporting a few horses, drawing the attention of hippogriffs. This is a great encounter for many reasons. First of all, you have a million get-out-of-jail-free cards in the form of ship's crew and passengers. There can be strong fighters and healers. If you want a low-scale fight, just make it so there's 1 or 2 hippogriffs and let the party be heroes. If you want to establish it's a rough and dangerous world, make a dozen attack. Drop a few party members to 0 and have the NPCs keep them alive. Use your Session 0 discussion concerning risk of death as guidance on actually killing somebody. Maybe the hippogriffs even win, ripping 2 or 3 of the horses off the ship. As the boat moves on, the party can see them feeding from the floating meat. Note that this ship is a boat full of opinions. Even in a losing effort, if the party does well, if they're brave, they'll be looked on as helpful. If they run and hide below decks, well, that's not going to do anything to build their reputation. Every mission sets up potential future missions. There could be people on this boat that are going to be quest givers. Or, if the party does poorly, they might not give any quests at all. Task number 5. You're probably starting to run out of time in your preparation schedule, so let's do a little world building for Kregia. I'm going to put a couple of hours into it. Give it some cultural uniqueness, describe the economy, the architecture, This city is probably going to be important several times in the future, so come up with something that the party is going to remember. Maybe there are dogs everywhere, pets and strays. Is dog walker a background that people born here have? It is never having to be something complicated. You can keep this stuff simple. It works. Task number 6, cleaning up the plot. If you keep things streamlined, you might have your party stay the night, wrap up their business, and sail back the next day. They'll deliver the potion all in one smooth session. It might not sound like it, but what we've described so far is about a 4-hour session. Now you can add a twist. There's illness here too. We're out of medicine. But if you gather a box of blue mountain flowers, I'll have some to sell for you. This can be a whole session too that requires very little preparation. You just work up a few encounters and you're good to go. Now for me, I'm not going to do that when we talk about the next video, moving into setting up future sessions. It's going to all be about Cameo. That's where you want to tie them to. Eventually, as they grow in levels, that's going to expand. But the tighter you keep them earlier, the easier it is to keep them tight later. We've hit 1,200 words. That is a very nicely sized video. They don't all have to be monsters. As I said, next time we're gonna get into some more advanced planning. We're gonna do several more episodes. I'm not gonna try to make them too long, but I get wordy sometimes. There's a city we're gonna do some world building for. That's an episode. We're going to talk about a plot line for the Knolls that can stretch, maybe all the way to 10th level. That'd be fun. We're going to talk about some plot lines, some ways to tie in the characters directly. And they don't have to have a big backstory for this. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's going to get complicated enough as it is, but we're going to have some fun with it. If you're a new DM and you want any other topics or tips discussed, I think I have not the only perspective by any means, but I have a unique perspective on a lot of stuff. I tend to come at things at a different angle than a lot of people do. Sometimes that means that my concepts are not for you, but sometimes they will be. And if they're not, it might still inspire some original thinking on your part. I appreciate each and every one of you. I continue to pick up new subs at a remarkable rate compared to last year. And you guys are the ones that make that happen. You're responsible for that smile. I'm responsible for the glowy reflection in my glasses. That must be annoying. The world is a better place with all of you. I hope you have a great rest of the day. I'll see you next time. Cheers.